And good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome here to the Homestead Miami Speedway as it plays host to the Season 58 All-Star Race Weekend here for Rolling Thunder Gaming Speedway style. Covering here the All-Star Open, the last chance qualifier to get into the All-Star Race main event, and then that main event coming up immediately afterwards. I'm Seth Colbean, joined by Jessica Shelton. And Jess, we talked about this at the conclusion of the races that we covered last week, the finales, Bare Bones, Aero 88, the Tally Challenge, now heading here into the All-Star race. No points, no championship on the line. These drivers, they've been aggressive this season, but tonight might be the most aggressive they've ever been.
Yeah, absolutely. This only comes around once a year for the chance to get a All-Star victory, and with it being the Open, a lot of these guys want to get into the actual main event itself, and luckily, we got someone with us tonight that knows a lot about not just the actual season, the struggles of trying to get the All-Star race, but actually has been in the All-Star race himself, and that would be Tim Knopsker joining us.
Yeah, how you guys doing? Thanks for letting me invade your party here. I'm excited. I have been looking over this field, and I am very excited to see what these guys can bring. It's one of these win, or go home moments. So I think the mentality will be bring back a winner of the steering wheel.
Now, one thing that I noticed here, we ended up getting told an audible just before we came on the air. It was originally going to be 3 drivers, top 3 finishers, transfer into the All-Star race via the Open, but it's now been opened up to the top 5 will transfer in. But one interesting thing that I noticed in the written drivers meeting that was put out this week, and this is going to apply not only here for the Open, but also for the All-Star race itself, and that is one incident and park. We know you can't win the race on the first lap, but you can certainly throw it away. So how do you find that balance between being aggressive and not being too aggressive and taking yourself out of a chance of competing for the checkered flag later on tonight?
Are you directing it at me or Tim?
Either one. Both, actually.
Go ahead, Tim.
Go ahead, Jess.
No, you can go ahead and go. It's okay.
Okay, well, I think the key to this is going to be taking care of your tires. It's so easy to heat up that right front tire. You have to, like you said, you have to bring home a car in order to qualify. So I think you're going to see a tale of 2 races here. I think you're going to see those guys who get out to the front and try to maintain that position. And I think you're going to see guys like one I noticed here was Terry Bombard. He is a master at saving those tires and not making his move till it counts. So I think there's going to be 2 mentalities here, but in the end, I think when we get to the to the last lap, I think all bets are off.
Well, I mean, I agree completely with the fact that it's being moderate damage is a little bit more forgiving, but at a intermediate track such as Homestead, it's going to be a little bit more detrimental. What happens if you hit the wall or get banged up too much on the side? It'll actually affect the car. I mean, we also got to look at the fact it's 41 laps. There's going to be pit stops here, and I have to ask, I mean, pit strategy is going to probably come into it if they go long and green, but Tim, do they have to enter with the access road off of 4 and off of window 1, or can they go ahead and merge, or go ahead and cut down right before pit road off of 4?
No, they'll be using the access roads on and off. That brings up a really good point too, is if we do get to a green flag pit stop, with those tires being worn, you can gain a lot of time entering on those access roads, but boy, if you slide off into the grass, then you've had it.
The field's kind of broken up here. I've got a couple of drivers that we'll see later on the All-Star race that are in doing admin duties. Of course, the broadcaster accounts as well, taking up some slots. So inside line, we'll move up a few rows there with
Whoa, someone's sideways already. Hold on, who is it? Sideways? It's the 92 of Bobby Farrell.
Yep, merging there up out of turn 1.
I just love Packley's car. I'm sorry.
We got about, 10, 11 cars here in this open field, it looks like. Top 5 will be transferring in. It's interesting you brought up the name Terry Bombard, Tim, because I looked back. I was curious to see if any of the series this past season had ran this particular track on the schedule, and lo and behold, it was the very same series that ran this mod, the Bare Bones Racing Series, on Monday nights. The top three finishers, they are all locked into the All-Star races already. Sean Prime, Jeremy Jeffries, and Brian Schilling. But 2 drivers that finished up inside of the top 5 are drivers we see in this open race. The unofficial pollster, if you will, Frank Rivard and Terry Bombard in that 10. So are those the drivers we're looking at here as maybe some of the favorites to be in the transfer spots by the time we get this checkered flag?
Well, I think Frank is a little more aggressive. They're 2 different racing styles there. Frank is a very aggressive driver, and Terry is more laid back.
Flag in the air, 41 laps here, top 5 transfer, and it looks like it was 9 drivers taking the green flag here for this All-Star Open event. Bobby Nice is going to slot right there into second in front of Mark Paglia. So at what point do these drivers start to get out of the mentality of aggressive racing for that spot up ahead of them and go into ride mode potentially? That's close.
Well, I honestly think right now it's just ride mode for a little bit. Just make sure you don't lose draft and just stay together. I mean, I just saw it a moment ago. Bobby Farrell running that higher groove on the start going out with turn 2. He actually tapped the wall a little bit. I mean, it seems like it pushes up really, really bad. And I mean, I don't know where you want to be at on this track, Tim. Normally, if I was on the track, I'd probably be running the middle of the low line, probably eating up the tires. But I don't think there's much up there at that high side where Bobby was running.
I think as long as you stay in the draft and you stay up on the high side, I think that's a good strategy. It is easier on the tires. I feel like some of these guys are going to try to push their way up to the front early. I know Jim Glaude, he's a hard charger. Greg Palmer, I think he advanced out of the Open last season. So, there's guys that want to be up front, and like I said, there's guys that are going to probably ride a little bit. It should make for some exciting racing either way.
Oh, I do want to go ahead, Seth.
I was going to say, I think we need to keep an eye on this 72 of Jim Glaude. He's just now moved up into the second position. We've seen in the past, just in mile-and-a-half races, he seems to be another driver that's very good at preserving his Goodyears for the long run. But I was watching these guys in practice, and Jim, he was sending it down that inside line into the corners. At one point, he actually sent it in so far, the back end came around in the center of the corner, and he spun out. So really yanking on that wheel here, trying to hook the inside line. We'll see if any drivers kind of have that desperate maneuver, trying to maybe get some clean air to the nose with the CTS physics. There's that little bit of aero push that you deal with in the draft off the corner. So we'll see if anybody tries changing things up as far as the line of the driver either ahead of them or behind them.
I did want to point out that the experience, I mean, I don't know how much experience he has, but I would focus on the guy sitting in third. I mean, I love the scheme. The scheme really stood out to me, but Paglia is someone I don't really ever think of that has to race their way in like this. I would always assume he's always somewhere ready to go. I might just be at the All-Star race that I'm thinking of for Super Speedway, but I just couldn't see myself calling an open for Paglia unless there was a big issue earlier on that caused him to miss some of the races. But I think Paglia has a good chance as well. But we got to look at the 27 stuff. Andre Marjon, we have seen him basically be a lot aggressive in these races that we've called, but he's found his way up near the front quite a few times. So he'll also be one to watch too.
Yeah, what about this, Tim, and the fact that, there's some names that kind of stood out to me here. Greg Palmer in the 22, Paglia in the 28, Bobby Farrell back there in the 92. These are drivers that we're used to seeing race week after week in the Tally Challenge. We don't normally get to see them with their Speedway racing. Some of them right here in this All-Star Open having to qualify their way into Jess's point. How easy is it for a driver that is more used to running the Super Speedway series to adapt to the Speedway racing of drivers that, yeah, they didn't get the benefit of a checkered flag to advance their way into this all-star race, but they've got the experience of running in those series that run regularly at speedways, like the Bare Bones series and the Aero 88 series.
Well, you're talking about two different disciplines of racing. I mean, super speedway racing is its own animal, whereas the speedways vary so much. A guy like Mark Paglia, in my mind, he's more of a super speedway ace, but in reality, he's just a good all-around racer. I mean, he's very competitive everywhere he goes. So the transition for him isn't so hard to jump off of super speedway to a speedway. Bobby Farrell, he races some super speedways, but he's also a pretty solid racer on speedways. So, it is surprising that they're not locked in.
Also, what about someone we really don't talk much, but we have seen quite a bit? The 96 of Dave Robinson. I mean, I don't really get a chance to race with him much because I'm more of a plate track driver. I mean, he's back here, back in the 8th position, just riding on his own. It doesn't really look like he's trying to force it too much or anything, just riding in line. What do you think about him?
Yeah, Dave's kind of a laid-back guy. He's
Whoa!
Did
you see Terry hit the wall there off that corner?
Did indeed. Got it pretty good
Sorry,
on the right
Terry.
side.
Sorry about that, Tim. Go ahead.
Yeah, we're kind of hitting that crossover point where these tires are going to start to wear. If you've been pushing it, you're going to see a lot of guys bouncing off the wall, off of 2 and 4. The 72 and the 35 have been battling like crazy, and I just can't imagine that they've not abused their tires to this point.
That hit for Terry Bombard, I think, was important on 2 counts. One, depending on how bad the impact was, it might affect the running of that race car for the remainder of this particular stint until maybe coming to pit road might be able to get that damage repaired. Usually, if you get enough right side damage, especially at a speedway like Homestead, I mean, you already documented on that right front tire heat, Tim, but that damage on the right side can kind of exacerbate that tight feeling. The other thing that was the problem for Terry Bombard there was at the time he hit the wall, he was in the 5th position, the final transfer spot. Because of that loss of momentum, Andre Mahjong made his way by, and right now he holds the final transfer position. I mean, look at this gaggle of cars right here, just inside or just outside of that transfer spot. You got Palmer, Frank Rivard, Mahjong, and now Terry Bombard trying to march back.
Yeah, I don't think that damage is going to hurt him too much, but I think he needs to settle in, let the tires cool down a bit. He was pushing pretty hard, which is very uncharacteristic of Terry. He's usually kind of hang back and let the race develop while he's saving his tires. So in an effort to stay up with this group, I think he's probably been pushing harder than he really wanted to.
Hey, Tim, I got a question for you. At this type of track, I mean, we've seen it, Seth and I have seen it at Chicagoland and at Auto Club and stuff. If you heat up that side of the tire and get it really hot, is it possible to actually go up really high on that really high line and just cool them down? Is that even a possibility at this track or no?
Absolutely. You can let off early, let her roll through the corner, stay up on that high side. You can certainly cool that tire down. You may lose touch with these guys a little bit, but as long as you're in the middle of the pack like Terry, you could certainly cool that tire down. Keep an eye on your temps and get it back into more reasonable temperatures.
Wow, things were really close there in that battle for the lead between Paglia and Jim Glaude going through 1 and 2. Paglia kind of crowding the 72 up now. Glaude's going to shoot the middle, and he'll go back to the top position. One thing I've noticed, we're about 15 laps in, little contact there for second. The tire fall off hasn't really translated much in terms of lap time fall off. Only about maybe 2.5 to 3/10 of a second lost here in these first 15 laps or so. So, the possibility, we already talked about it, of green flag pit stops being a deciding factor into the outcome of this race. where are you looking to make that green flag pit stop? Do you want to go as far as you possibly can, come down pit road, maybe take on less fuel, maybe even just gamble with right side tires? Or do you want to come to pit road as soon as that window opens? Because is that 2 to 3 to 4 tenths of a second per lap on fresh Goodyears? Is that a key difference in the final run to the checkers?
Well, the draft is important here for sure. You certainly don't want to go down by yourself. I think if I'm in the position like Mark Paglia, I think he's been doing a good job of running that mid to high, saving his tires. I think the 72, I think he's been really hard on him, and I think he's going to feel the effects probably sooner than the 28. But as far as pitting, I'd like to pit with 2 or 3 other cars, make sure that you do have a group. It is similar to a super speedway in that aspect.
I'm noticing that when they go down deep in this corner, I mean, yeah, they push up a little bit, but the inside gains a little bit. But coming off of 4, I'll watch this 27 of Andre Marjan. He just pulls right away, like there's more speed that he can use off that corner. So it's going to come down between diving on that inside, diamond cutting that, and then just running on the high side. I mean, like, what line would you prefer at this point, Tim?
Well, I think it's where you feel comfortable running. Obviously, the 72, he's keeping her low. He still is holding the line, so it doesn't look like he's. As I say that, the 28 is looking low underneath him, but he may be feeling the effects of his tires starting to go away.
Thought we were about to have a 3-wide battle because that machine of Greg Palmer back there was peeking to that inside. But also, I'm wondering, do we have people actually from the All-Star main that are actually concentrating on watching the broadcast to figure out what they can expect for the race? I mean, or do you think they're already prepared in their own mindset, or is there anything that they can learn from this specifically?
Well, I feel like they're probably watching, but with the tire wear being different in the main.
Whoa! Mark Paglia! Mahjong, Palmer,
Whoa,
Robbins.
There's more back here.
There's a lot of them. Terry Bombard, I think, got a piece of it. Caution going to come out here 22 laps in. They're still wrecking there in the infield grass.
Hadley has such a good run going, too, and wow.
You saw the hard racing up at the front. They were given not a whole heck of a lot of room, and finally the room just ran out. That was for the lead, that contact, and now you look at some of the drivers that were kind of running towards the tail end of the pack, like Bobby Farrow and Dave Robbins and Robbie Nisus. This could put them right up primely into some transfer spots. Gloud and Rivard were also collected up in this.
And it looks like Paglia is on the access road coming to pit road. I mean, I don't know how bad of a hit that was, but I looked pretty hard. I mean, look at the back end of that 28 machine set that. His day may go ahead and be done. I'm not sure if he's going to go ahead and continue.
Well, that was the worst possible scenario. I mean, when the leaders wreck, everybody is packed in so tight. And given the fact that they're exiting the corner, I mean, it just makes it that much harder to elude a wreck. I feel like at this point, I think some of those guys, they've got to go ahead and get that damage fixed because, in a field this small and they're taking the top 5, I mean, you've got to tough it out. You've got to try to at least get, inside that top 5.
Paglia did retire, by the way, unfortunately.
Huge hit. I mean, I think he hit where there was no safer bear. We had already exited out of turn 2.
Yeah.
That's concrete wall right there.
That back end was really bashed up from what I could tell from that corner. One thing I want to think about is, with as aggressive as they were racing up front, do you think it was more of aggressive trying to be up front for position for the end, or do you think it was more for, okay, we have pit stops coming up, but I want to be the one leading on pit road? What do you think?
Well, it looked to me like the 28 was running the line he had been running pretty much the whole race. I think that the 72 was starting to experience some tire wear, And I think he couldn't hold that line that he'd been running, virtually all race long. So it looked like his tires were starting to give up. So just two guys going pretty much for the same spot. It was pretty aggressive, though, to start with.
How aggressive it was. I'm wondering, too, those cars that we saw up there inside of the top 3, top 4, they've been up front really the entirety of this open. So they were looking like, whether they were in aggressive mode or in ride mode, they were probably going to hold those spots up inside of the top 5. I'm wondering, it could be two sides of the coin. On one side, it could have been drivers maybe feeling they have a really good chance of advantage of the All-Star race. Let's experiment a little. Let's try and get an upper hand on the All-Star race driver, so that way we know what our cars are capable of doing, what these tires are capable of doing this long into a run. Or is it the fact that we talked about the CTS physics here, the draft, very prevalent. You get a lot of momentum. You get a run in that slipstream. Just kind of get that overwhelming feeling, I got to take this momentum somewhere. So which side are we on as far as the aggressive racing we saw up at the front?
I think it's a combination of everything you just said, plus the drivers themselves. I mean, so many guys have so many different ways of looking at a race. Some guys want to charge to the front, while others, are content to ride in that 5th or 6th spot and wait to see how things shake out. I just thought it was a little too aggressive at that point of the race, knowing that they still had a pit stop to make. I think I would have just kind of decided to ride until I got that pit stop under my belt. Then I'm going to charge. But, everybody doesn't think the same way.
With that caution coming out, we were past the halfway point. You'd have to assume everybody's good to make it on fuel. So pit road shouldn't be a factor into the outcome of this open. And for this upcoming restart, I believe only 3 drivers did not get involved in that wreck. Rivard in the 35, Robbins in the 96, and Bobby Farrell in the 92. Now, Jim Glaude not sporting any damage, but he obviously had the contact with Paglia, and Robbie Nisus never hit anybody, but he did go for a spin through the infield grass to avoid everyone. So those drivers are not sporting any damage. 27, we know, Madri Mahjong, he took a pretty good hit. Greg Palmer, I think, hit the outside wall with the front end. Terry Bombard, we saw with his onboard, he got into Mark Paglia's. So aero damage, how prevalent is that going to be for those drivers here for this final run?
But Seth, I do want to point out, though, there were a couple times in the run that I saw a few cars get up and touch the wall, brush the wall. I don't know how hard they hit because they didn't really bounce off really, to scatter anyone. But we saw Terry had that hard hit. Bobby Farrell had that hard hit. I thought I saw at one point Robbie Nisus barely nicked the wall, but I don't know how much damage that would cause at all. I mean, the only person that I can tell 100% that did not touch anything that I've seen is actually that 96 machine of Dave Robbins.
You mentioned it before, too. If you cause an incident, you're done for the night. We see the 72 is still running, the 28 in the garage area. Not certain what the general consensus was for that contact, whether the 28 took the blame or maybe it was deemed a racing deal, but the 72 still out in front leading this race. Jim Glaude, who has led 15 laps of this event so far here tonight, leading us back to what's going to be 15 to go here in the All-Star Open.
Right away, you see Greg Palmer drop real quick, Seth. That, I don't know. I don't think Palmer's going to have a chance unless these guys right here screw up. But, he looks like he's trying to get himself back up to speed. It's going to be pretty much him and Farrell. I just see Farrell battling him back on the high side, getting that run. Terry Bombard looks like he's still got some life left in him, and he ain't done yet.
Oh, and now Robbie Nisus is going to get turned around off the nose of Greg Palmer. And that's going to bring out a caution. Second caution of the evening.
Whoa, slow it down. Now, hey, Tim, at this point, I'm wondering, how many times have you actually been in a open predicament? Because you're usually blocked into the All-Star itself. So, I mean, how many times have you actually been forced to try to push yourself to win one of these things?
I've had to do it a few times. I don't have the opportunity to race on Mondays or Wednesdays as often as I'd like to. So I've been in that situation, and it is nerve wracking. I tell you, you want to be in the main event. You want to be with the rest of the great drivers, and it's you find yourself getting nervous over what am I going to do? Am I going to be able to get in the top five? I mean, it's nerve wracking, but I have had to do it 3 or 4 times.
It looked like to me that Robbie came down right in front of Palmer at that point.
It's weird, right? Our two cautions have kind of been that gray area we always talk about with Speedway racing, whether it be a D-shaped 1.5 mile, an oval here like Homestead. You usually have different drivers with different entry points, different centers of the corner, and different exits. And almost invariably, at some point or another, those pathways intersect with each other and contact is made. It looks like Robbie Nisus is both figuratively and literally pulling his car into the infield, into the garage area. But I mean, kind of what we saw earlier with the 72 and the 28. One was sliding up, one was kind of arcing down for the exit of turn 2, and then kind of the same deal here with Nisus coming down in preparation for the exit of turn 4, and Greg Palmer drove it in deep and was sliding up there, heading through the center of the corner to the exit of turn 4. So I kind of get the feeling we're going to see a little bit more of that here, because we mentioned pit road is out of play now. Everybody can make it on fuel unless they maybe want to come down and put on a fresh set of tires if you're running maybe towards the back of the pack. But from here on out, every single restart is potentially the final run to the checkers.
Absolutely, and now it's all about track position. Now the question is, do you want to push yourself really, really hard to get the track position early and use up most of your good stuff, especially you're wearing your tires down, or are you content to ride for a few laps because you're going to have like 12 laps to go when we get going again?
Also a question of where do you want to be positioned, I think. I mean, when you're out front, yeah, you're defending for the victory, but you know that, whenever a driver puts the helmet on, it doesn't matter if there's a championship on the line or no points on the line. They want to be the first one back to that checkered flag. But then you've got to think about a driver that's restarting back there in 4th or 5th. I mean, they're the first or second driver just barely in, one or two positions lost, and they're outside.
But we also got to realize, if not most of everyone, I don't know about Dave Robbins, like I said, I haven't seen him touch anything, but everyone else seems to have some form of hit or damage one way or another, or a little scratch or a scrub. But the only person who has a lot of experience that could tell us a little bit more about their ideal of where we want to go, the current position, how many laps we're up, is Tim. So Tim, tell us, what would your strategy be at this point?
I think it depends on how much damage I had. I know that Greg Palmer took some big hits there, but I felt like he was fast enough to, at least tag on to the back of the pack. I think if I was him, I would just try to, maintain my spot and see if I can make any moves. It really depends on how much damage he has. But, a guy like Terry Bombard, I think he was not damaged as severely. I think he'll be okay. I'm sure not. Jury's still out on Bobby Farrell. I couldn't see how fast he got up to speed, but right now I'd say 72 and the 35. They need to just kind of get nose to tail and ride this thing out, because they're their own worst enemies at this point. If they get to race and they could get together, I think. From an admin standpoint on those first 2 wrecks, I was going to piggyback off what Seth said, but, this is more of a fun thing too, as far as, these all-star races. And I think the admins are going to err more on the side of a racing deal versus, unless it's totally obvious, I think you're going to see a lot of racing deals called.
Got the lights out atop the pace car, so we'll go back green with 9 laps remaining here. No, correction, 10 laps remaining in this All-Star Open. Something else that, in the past All-Star races that we've broadcasted, that we've talked about, is the opportunity for drivers. Yes, they had the pressure on them of having to transfer in through the All-Star Open, but at the same time, they're out here getting to log laps, being able to kind of start to put a notebook together for the eventual all-star race, something that all the all-star drivers that are already locked in are not getting a chance to do. 41 laps here in this All-Star Open. That's about 2/3 of the length of what the All-Star Race event is going to be. So you got to think that these guys are going to get a slight bit of an advantage when the green flag drops later on tonight for the main event.
Yeah, with that, go ahead then. Sorry.
No, I agree with everything you said. You know, the more repetitions you can take, the better off you're going to be. I think that these guys could get a leg up on some of those other guys.
Well, what I was thinking about was, with as much stressful as this could be for some of these guys, how drained and how tired will they be when they actually get to the main itself? As you see them stack up on that high side a little bit, but like, how drained in their mind mentally will they actually be with this race when they get to the main event?
That stack up, by the way, Frank Rivard actually got the wall off of turn 2. That checked up him and Terry Bombard in that outside line and is going to allow Bobby Farrell to challenge to the inside of the 10 for that final transfer spot. Close door racing there between Robbins and Rivard for second.
That's where you have to maintain your composure. I mean, you're not racing to win this race. You're racing to transfer. You know, just find a comfortable spot to ride inside the top 5. I think Frank was pushing it, trying to get around the 72 and got himself up into the wall. So, I mean, you can only hurt yourself at this point. So just try to find a nice, quiet spot and ride.
And here's the thing, too. For these All-Star Open drivers, they were all gridded via Lotto Q. Later on tonight in the All-Star race, drivers will be able to go out in the qualifying session and put down lap times, and that would include the All-Star Open drivers. So they won't necessarily have to start at the very tail end of the field. So back to your point, Tim, you know, if you know you're already transferring into the All-Star race, that 1 or 2 positions ahead of you isn't all that important as long as you've got that cushion back to the final transfer spot.
Absolutely.
4th place, Terry Bombard, Andre Mahjong, Greg Palmer, licking his lips right now, hoping one of them loses momentum and drops back, because that would put him from first driver out to last driver in. Look at this, gonna get a little bit of a run on that top side. Oh, contact and saves it. I don't think he even touched the wall. Might have gotten a bit of that right rear flare, but that was close.
You don't lose a lot of time on the leaders though, but well, as aggressive as they're going to be, it may end up being an A-OK for Palmer, because we've seen how aggressive things happen throughout the whole season. So they'll get really aggressive, start running each other side by side. Yeah, they got a transfer spot, but somebody wants it a little bit more, and they'll push it harder and harder and harder, and that might be a little bit of saving grace for the 22 machine of Palmer. I mean, he's really going up the track now, so I mean, he's had to let off the throttle even more. He must have really aggravated his tires badly in that run.
Talked about the right front, Tim. What about the right rear on that slide? Is that why the 22 is losing all that grip through the center of the corner now?
Yeah, I believe he made his right rear angry, and it's going to hurt him for a little bit. But, you know, we're getting down to the end of this thing, and, you know, it's time to go. So he better suck it up and see what he can get here.
All I'm going to say is I love that phrase. I think that's something we need to think about using. His right rear or right front or something, make the tire angry.
Goodyear's going to send an angry Christmas card or something.
No, we'll just use Firestone. Screw it.
Terry Bombard completed the pass around Andre Mahjong, so move him into 4th and Mahjong back to the hot seat. The driver he's got to worry about is that 92 of Bobby Farrell. Now, I was noticing earlier, Bobby Farrell, it didn't look like he got a whole lot of damage from the first caution. But on that last restart, he got bypassed by both, I think it was Palmer and Andre Mahjong on the top side off of turn 2, which made me wonder if maybe he had some aero damage, but since he's keeping with the tail end of this pack, maybe not. Might be lying in wait, might be preserving his tires for this final run, as that was tight off of turn 2. Dave Robbins, he almost had Terry Bombard to his right rear quarter panel.
They're all going pretty much single file. The only one who seems to be peeking out is that 10 machine of Terry Bombard. And, I mean, I don't know, like, right now would be the perfect time to start moving around, trying to find what you can. But right now, Terry is in good position to transfer, but you gotta watch out. Not too far back behind is this 92 tie-dye machine, Seth.
And if 2 cars get into it, Greg Palmer is still back there. He may be 4.5
seconds
back.
They're getting racy up there.
Look at this.
Frank Rivard doesn't want to settle for transfer. He wants more.
Doesn't matter if you're making it into the All-Star race. He wants to get that checkered flag. Look how it stacked him up. Now Dave Robbins lost momentum. Terry Bombard's going to swing around on that top side. Here comes the 10, up to P3.
Andre Majon looking on that high side of the 96 as well. Almost lost that position back to 5th, but they slipped back into a single file racing. But Jim Gloud, I mean, I'm still kind of confused about that first caution or first incident with the 72, but so far, Jim Gloud and Frank Rivard, they're pretty much showing the way the whole race long that we've been in this ever since Padley was taken out earlier.
And Jim Gloud's going to win the Open. Rivard second, Bombard third, Robbins and Mahjong, the top 5 that will transfer into the All-Star race. A clinic here in this All-Star Open by Jim Gloud in that 72. 32 of the 41 laps led by that Shelby Ford Mustang.
Absolutely, and he's going to be very happy and very confident moving forward. And then you got the 35 machine of Rivard. I mean, they're going to be pretty happy if they are able to get a good qualifying spot and whatnot for the main event, because there's going to be more laps out, and that's more time for them to figure more stuff out. But since they've already been in this right now, I mean, are the conditions at all going to change when you got more drivers, more aggressiveness around you compared to what you just ran this race?
That's a good point. Field size could make a difference into the type of racing we'll see, Tim. I mean, only 9 drivers took the green flag here tonight. Coming into this evening, I believe 24 drivers, or 23 drivers, I'm sorry, were already locked into the All-Star race. We know a few are going to miss, but we could be looking somewhere around 20 to 25 cars in the All-Star race. That's, more than 3 times the amount of what we had here in the Open.
Yeah, that's going to definitely pump up the aggression. If you don't get a good qualifying run, you better stay up in that lead pack. You're going to see probably some separation in the next race. I can't imagine that everyone's going to go full out like we saw here. I'm still stunned at the amount of racing we saw amongst the top 5 in those final laps. I mean, you know, that's I always preach situational awareness of what do you need. You don't need to win. You need to finish 5th. So to see those guys mixing it up like that, maybe that was just for the TV broadcast, but yeah, that would have had me nervous for sure.
Block for second on that final lap on the back straightaway there between Rivard and Terry Bombard. Unfortunate for Bobby Farrell, Greg Palmer, Robbie Nisus, and Mark Paglia. They did not finish inside the top 5, so they will not be taking part in the upcoming All-Star event. Gloud, Rivard, Bombard, Robbins, and Mahjong. We'll be talking to them here during our race break as they'll be swapping the server over for the All-Star race and the All-Star race, like the All-Star race drivers, to be able to get in. And let's see if we can, talk to some of the drivers about the aggressive racing we saw there in that All-Star Open, and if that's any indication of what we'll be seeing in the upcoming All-Star event. Let's see if we can dial up the driver that took the checkered flag here in this All-Star Open, Jim Gloud. Hey, Jim, it's just Tim and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
I do. How you guys doing?
Doing good. Well, I'll tell you what, we know that Homestead is a multi-groove track, but I think no car was able to hook the bottom as good as your number 72 was, able to be out in front for pretty much 3/4 of this race. How good you feeling now for this All-Star race coming up? Because it seems like this car is fast.
Well, now everybody's seeing what I'm doing. I have to get in line. No, I have my brother pitting for me, my brother Junior, and he told me he gave me this special set of tires that'll just hook the bottom, and well, it did.
Well, Jim, I was amazed. I thought your tires would give up quite a bit sooner than that, but in the All-Star main event, it goes from 2 times to 3 times tire wear. So are you going to be able to charge like you did in the All-Star Open, or are you going to have to try to maintain a better speed, slower speed, and maybe save some tires?
I think what it'll come down to is I think we'll be able to use the low line if you can get the pass done and get back up in line. But I think once if we get a long run, running that high line, guys seem to give up a bit too. Like if I take care of my tires and I get down the low line, it seems like I can keep the momentum going. But we'll see with the 3 times. I practiced with it, and it seemed like I was still able to be a little quicker on the bottom. But if you get hung down there, and you got a whole line of cars, and that's what's going to happen at the beginning. So there's really nothing in it until the end with the main event. With this one here, I just wanted to be in front in case something happened. I didn't want to get wrecked.
You had about 9 really decent competitors tonight for the Open, Jim, and you were really aggressive, trying to stay up front the whole race like you were. We touched on it a little earlier. The main event's going to have a lot more drivers, a lot more high caliber drivers who have won races constantly, who have been in the thick of it all season long and previous season, who have just got their P's and Q's already set on how they're going to drive. Now, with you being aggressive this race like you were, are you going to kind of lay back a little bit and see how the race unfolds before you decide to be aggressive? Or is it just, I don't care, I'm going to be aggressive all the way from start to finish?
Yeah, basically, I'm trying not to overdrive it and save my tires, but sorry, I got other people whispering here to me, but it's basically maybe the last run. You'll see me driving like I did in here, but I just need to get there.
Well, Jim, we're going to look forward to seeing what you're able to do here. Congratulations on transferring in with the win in the Open. Maybe we'll be able to talk to you doubling down and get the All-Star Race sweep, but in case we don't, we're going to give you the opportunity here for thank you, sponsors, and shout-outs.
Well, great. Thanks. I want to say thank you to you guys for doing this for us. It's great. And RTG, world-class group of guys there. So they put a lot of work into for us to be able to come out here and have fun. And I want to thank them all for sure. I know I try them a lot with their patience, but it's all in good fun. But yeah, that's basically it. I want to thank everybody for watching, and yeah, good. Hopefully the main is going to be exciting as this one was.
Well, we look forward to it. Jim Gloud, your winner here from the All-Star Open. We'll see him in that number 72 out there on the racetrack once again in preparation for the 67-lap main event. Let's see if we can dial up the guy that finished second to him, also in a transfer spot, Frank Rivard. Frank, the folks up here in the FRM booth, you got us? We'll give it another try here. Frank, you got us up here in the booth? Looks like maybe he might have stepped away, taking a little break here in preparation for the upcoming All-Star race. We'll see if maybe we can dial him up a little bit later. It's leapfrog to the third place finisher from the Open, Terry Bombard. Terry, Jess, Tim, and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
Yes, sir. How's it going, brother?
I'll tell you what, we were remarking up here about just how amazed we were of how aggressive the racing was, even up inside of the top 5, the transfer positions. We saw you got some early damage and then that first caution, but looked like it didn't really hurt that number 10 machine at all. I mean, a lot of experience of what this Homestead Miami Speedway is going to bring to the table here tonight. What can you apply now in preparation for the All-Star race?
Yeah, I think there was. I didn't think I was going to finish in the top 5 after that wreck, because I got off the wall, hit him head on, and then I was like, oh boy, they held me in there forever banging on it. I thought, well, so I think you got to keep it clean. If you don't keep it clean and get some damage, you get some fast guys, you're going to be in big trouble, I think.
Okay, Bumby. Apparently I don't know you at all, because I figured when I race with you normally, you kind of slide into the back, save some tire, and then you methodically work your way up. you were charging from the beginning, and I was amazed at the aggression I saw out of you. What was your strategy there? I guess I was missing the boat on that one.
Yeah, well, I was starting. I don't know. I think I was 5th, 6th, 7th, whatever I was there. But only 41 laps goes quick here, and I just wanted to try to get myself in position, getting around that top 5 for the pit stops, because I figured I could gain a spot or two there if I had to. So I was just hoping to get a good run going, keep myself clean, and then once I got in the top 5, just keep it there. And then at the end, though, I changed my mind and decided to start racing for 3rd, 4th, 5th, whatever it was there, and see what I could do on the outside. And that worked pretty good. So I got that in my pocket now for the next race. So we'll see what happens.
Well, great job. Congratulations.
Thanks, guys. Good job, guys.
Let's see if we can get our 4th place finisher. And that is the driver, the number 96, Dave Robbins. Hey, Dave, Jess, Tim, and Seth up here in the F-Rim booth. You got us? Give it one more try here. Dave, you got us up here in the booth?
Yes, I do.
All right, well, I'll tell you what, it looked like everybody out there tonight in that All-Star Open had made contact in some way, shape, or form. Not a scratch on your number 96. You bring it home in that 4th position. Now getting ready here for this All-Star race. Congratulations on the transfer. I mean, what can we expect to see out of you now here in preparation for the main event?
I'm just contemplating with my buddies how we're going to attack this thing and work together. I'm just going to keep my nose clean, try to be around at the end.
So as far as the strategy, you think if you just hang out with 4 or 5 of your buddies there, stay out of trouble, you think that'll be enough to get you there at the end?
No, we're going to have to get up there and do some hard racing in the end for sure.
All right, well, Dave, congratulations on the transferring. We're looking forward to seeing what you're going to be able to do here tonight. Before we let you go, anybody you'd like to thank or shout out?
Hey, RTG is just the best, putting on these races for us. A lot of guys go to a lot of great lengths to provide what we're able to enjoy here, and my hat's off to all of them.
4th place in the All-Star Open puts Dave Robbins into the All-Star race. Best of luck.
Thank you, sir.
And we'll see as we're nearing qualifying here. We'll see if we can quickly get a word with our final transferee, the driver, the number 27, Andre Mahjong. Hey, Andre, it's the folks up here in the FRN booth. You got us? I'll give one more try here. Andre, you got a copy? We don't have Andre available either. I mean, yes, you touched on it. Drivers are going to be exhausted, the exhaustion level possibly between racing the 40 laps there, 41 laps in the Open in preparation for the 67 laps. Probably, step away from the PC for a moment, take a breather, get yourself mentally set for the upcoming main event race.
Absolutely, with all the aggression, all the excitement, and all the little tingling in your spine and your sensation in your complete senses. It's overwhelming to a point. And now you got to go back out. You got to do it all over again. So, but this time it's going to be a little bit more.
A little bit more. I mean, we've got a bigger field. It's already been mentioned 3 times where. So, I get a feeling it didn't play a factor into that All-Star Open. I get a feeling it's really going to play a factor into the outcome of this race. I'm going to put you two on the spot here because the criteria for making it into the All-Star race, it goes back from the previous 2 seasons. So it goes back from the start of season 56. Any wins at Speedways qualifies drivers into the All-Star race already. Also drivers that end up winning the Challenger Series or things like that. There's different criterias in that way. The 2 defending winners, 2021, it was Grant Wesley. 2022, the defending All-Star race winner on the Speedway style side, Jeremy Jeffries. Do we see either one of them double down here, or do you guys think we've got maybe a sleeper in the field that's going to snipe away an all-star win here tonight?
Wait, you said Jeremy Jeffries and who? Sorry?
Grant Wesley.
Hmm. Alright, so I'm guessing what you're saying is commentators first.
Well, no, let's not go that far.
That's what you're kind of angling for.
It's
Honestly,
a very simple question.
uh-huh,
Hopefully not
right.
with repercussions.
Sure. Uh-huh. I believe that. Well, the question I'd have to ask is, first off, is there going to be a quote-unquote specific break where they're going to transfer each other from half and half or reverse the field? Like, we have seen that once or twice before in the past, and I'm not sure if there's going to be any tricks or anything coming up. Do we know that yet?
No, I
Straight up
believe.
67 laps as far as I'm aware.
Yep, green to checkers. Nothing in between.
Okay. Well, in that case, based on what we've seen, I mean, yeah, we know Jeremy's really good. We know Grant Wesley's good, but Sean's not going to be racing, unfortunately, I don't believe. And the way I'm looking at it right now, Grant, okay. I mean, if I have to pick an outsider for this right now, I'll be looking at Schilling, or believe it or not, I'd be looking at the machine of oh gosh, I just saw his name, Supta. Because Supta's been up there. He just had a little bit of bad luck here and there, but he's also a recent winner too. So we got to take that into effect as well. But I think Jeremy at one point, I believe last year, he said that this was his stomping ground. This was his thing, wasn't it? Or was it Supta? I want to say one of them said something about winning constantly.
I feel like with the caliber of drivers in this field, I feel that any one of them could be up there at the end. Obviously, Grant's real good and Jeremy's real good, but I just don't think I can overlook any of those other competitors. I think everyone brings something to the table here, and you have guys like Josh Metallic. Obviously, I work with him on Thursdays, but he's so cerebral in the way he approaches a race. I mean, he just is always thinking about what could or couldn't happen. I mean, it would be hard to pick. And I think Jeremy and Grant are going to have a hard time doubling down, in my opinion.
I mean, I hate to say this, but I completely disagree with Josh Metallic. You know why? Because he didn't come in here to say hi to us. He didn't come in for a pre-interview or even a pre-race talk. And we didn't get to talk about the Gecko, so no, he's not going to win.
He's not getting
blackballed.
Not getting that pre-race good mojo.
Yep, he screwed himself out of that one. But yeah, I mean, I completely agree. There is a really good bunch of talented, bunch of caliber drivers, and anything can happen at the All-Star race. We've seen them be really aggressive and take each other out in the Super Speedway Series one before, where it kept us guessing for the final lap, wasn't it, Seth? Who's going to win? Who's going to win? Who's going to win? I think Godfrey took that one, if I'm not mistaken. But
yep.
And then you got. It's just hard for me to I mean, well, like you said, Tim, Grant's decent. You got the decency of Metallic up there. A lot of these drivers have been here for a long period of time. Terry Bombard knows what he's doing up front. But to me, it just seems like if Jeremy doesn't get it, my mind's focused on Jeff Suppa getting it.
And
that's just how I feel.
Well, here's the thing. I was kind of looking in the 11's direction as well, and here's the reason why. You look at the resume in the last two seasons for the two defending winners, the two past winners of this All-Star race. Start first with Jeremy Jeffries. 25 wins in the last two seasons. Of course, the defending All-Star race winner. He was the season 57 Aero 88 champion, as well as the Triple X champion in season 57. If you go back in the Bare Bones Racing series race that was run here this past season, here at this particular racetrack, Jeremy Jeffries started second, finished second, led the most laps. Grant Wesley, since the start of season 56, 20 trips to victory lane, the 2021 All-Star race winner. Now, granted, this track wasn't particularly kind to him. He finished a lap down in the Bare Bones race here at Homestead, but the only other driver since season 56 that has at least 20 victories is that number 20 or is that number 11 of Jeff Supta. So we'll have to see. But another thing that I also found interesting, 67 laps here tonight, 3x wear. It was 94 laps, 2x wear for the bare bones race here earlier on this season. But from the 29th position to third place for Brian Schilling. So that 4 car, if we're looking at someone that might be really good at preserving the tires and gaining track position on the long run, we might have to look in the direction of the number 4.
Okay, so I'm going to push this thing over the finish line, since we'll just pretend that there's no broadcaster's curse.
Yes.
So I want to have each of you pick a winner. Jess, you go first.
I have returned. I'm sorry. Stepped away for a moment.
Okay, Jess. So what the deal is we're pretending there's no broadcaster's curse, and since I don't get to do this with you guys too often, I am going to say that we all pick who we think is going to win. You go first, Jess.
Supta.
Supta? Seth?
I'm gonna go with Jeremy Jeffries, just based off of the resume he's got, what he was able to do here last time. I'm going with Jeremy Jeffries. Car 1 finishes P1.
I'm going with Brian Schilling. I believe that he's he took some time off, did a little iRacing, came back, and he's been coming on like gangbusters. And I feel like this is his night to break through and take the whole thing.
It was mentioned already, Sean Prime's not going to be taking part here tonight. Otherwise, he would have been my pick because he was the guy that won this race with the bare bones race earlier.
I would have leaned toward him. But I do want to point out another name we're seeing here that, could also be a sleeper. I mean, I know we made our picks already, but a sleeper that we can't really overlook too much. There's 2 of them in my mind that I'm paying attention to. Dave Melson, who has been up front pretty much quite a bit of these intermediates that we've broadcasted, Seth. He's been running decently. And then we've got the 38 machine of Ronnie Solins, which he's been taking off pretty well in the plate series on that side, but we've seen him hanging around a lot of the top 10 before incidents or something happens, or even finishing top 10. So we can't discount that 38 machine either.
And I'm going to be very interested to see about that 72 of Jim Gloud as well, and the 35 of Frank Rivard. Mentioned that both of those drivers, Rivard had very good numbers here last season in the Bare Bones Racing Series. Gloud obviously dominating up at the front for a majority of the All-Star Open. Qualifying is currently going on, so they're going to be able to maybe get good starting track position. It'll be interesting to see, with the extra experience that they had earlier on tonight in the Open, if they can translate that into getting back up to the front, staying at the front here with a bigger field.
Watch, they're going to listen to the broadcast and they're going to take each other out, and we're just not going to have nobody.
One thing about tonight as well, saw a little bit of it in the All-Star Open, and we'll see it here in the All-Star race as well. An opportunity for drivers to kind of showcase the schemes that they'll be featuring in Season 59 of the Bare Bones Racing Series. Saw about a good half dozen, 7, 8 cars out there with some new paint schemes. Rodney Sellens in the 38 was one. I believe I also saw Grant Wesley had a new scheme. Josh Metallic had a new scheme. As a matter of fact, can't believe I'm saying this. We got a Honda in the field with that number 39.
Okay, it's official. Joshua Metallic. Where is
I said
yeah.
he was a thinking man. I didn't say he was a smart man.
I'm just going to say it's Josh Metallic. Where is he? Oh, there he is.
I was trying to remember. He has the Husky Chocolate sponsorship and a Honda. I couldn't remember. I know Marcus Ericsson in IndyCar, he had that sponsorship, but I don't think he was a Honda. I think he was a Chevrolet. So I'm not sure where the Honda and the sponsorship correlation is.
Well, Josh is a huge IndyCar fan.
But
I think we all know that, but I don't know that he was necessarily Team Honda.
Isn't he from Indianapolis? That's what I'm wondering, Tim. Isn't he from Indianapolis?
He's from Indiana, yeah, in that area. I think he's always been a big Tony Kanaan fan. Was Tony Kanaan a Honda driver? I guess I'm not sure.
I think he was.
That could
I
be
might
where
be
that
wrong.
stems
I don't
from.
follow IndyCar enough. I
Where's
literally just
Charles when we
started.
need him?
Yeah, I've started following a little bit here in maybe the last year or two, so I don't recall if Kanan was a Honda driver or not.
Watching the practice here, I noticed a little earlier a moment for Andre Marjan. He was trying to go really fast up next to that wall. He was like 165, 166, 67, and he hit the wall. And when he barely touched the wall set, that back end kicked right out like it didn't even want to be there anymore, period. So, I mean, it just seems like they're discovering that this isn't really something they need to muck with too much up here in that high side.
Well, that's
Double.
normally a problem with safer barriers. When you run a safer barrier track, once you get into the wall, it is very hard to get off of it.
All right,
We
so
also
at 39's turned onto the racetrack. We got a couple of minutes. We're solving this mystery right now. I'm gonna see if we can dial him up. We're gonna see if we can get to the bottom of this here, the metallic mystery. Josh, it's the folks up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
I got a copy.
All right, so you gotta sell something for us here, because we were commenting on the fact that we've actually got a Honda in the All-Star race field here tonight. We were trying to figure out all the correlation and everything. Now, I touched on the fact that the Husky chocolate sponsorship, I recognize that from a previous Marcus Ericsson scheme, but the Honda, why the Honda tonight?
Well, I sent Rodney, the guy who painted it, a picture of the car that won the 500 last year with Ericsson and Husky, and he said, "Hey, he's driving a Honda. You want that car to be a Honda, Ford, Chevy?" I said, I'll go with whatever. He goes, "Well, Honda looks pretty cool. I've never done one. So let me try that." And I said, "All right, go for it." And he did it, and it looks awesome. It's unique. It's different. Figure I'd show it off in the All-Star race.
I'm just gonna warn you, if you end up tearing up that front end, they don't put a brand new front end on there.
You also realize, Josh, we've already picked drivers, and unfortunately we don't like you because you don't run the Gecko.
Yeah, when I had that scheme was first created, I don't even know if they had the Gecko in the commercials. I mean, it's an old retro scheme, so probably should have the Caveman on if nothing else. But
Well, that was a link to Tony Kanaan, wasn't it?
that was, yeah. If you haven't noticed, being from Indianapolis, I'm a bit of an IndyCar junkie, so a lot of my schemes have IndyCar related sponsors, paint schemes, etc.
While we're getting ready for this countdown, Josh, I do have actually a serious question I would like to pose to you. Now, you do the Super Speedway series, and this is the normal Speedway series. Do you take the Super Speedway series a little bit more intent than the actual Speedway All-Stars? Is this like more of a, I'm going to go ahead, have fun, relax, and then I'm going to be more focused for the Super Speedway series since technically you are the admin for that one? Or do you treat them both as equal?
I enjoy the All-Star races personally because there's no hard feelings. There's no points lost if you screw up or if you screw someone else's race up. All that matters is the win. There's no top fives or moving on to the next round with the top 10. So I enjoy them because it's all for fun. There's one winner and a bunch of losers. So you have your mission. It's win. That's all that matters. So I enjoy them. They're fun.
We're moments away from getting the command to fire them up and let you guys get ready to take the green flag here tonight. So good luck, have fun, and don't use up too much of your DRS.
Hey, I'll try not to. Push for pass. I'll save it till the white flag.
Good luck tonight. And by the way, I didn't pick you.
That's all right. Everyone makes mistakes, Tim.
That'll
Thanks,
come back to
guys.
haunt you later, right?
See ya.
Josh.
Later on.
Josh, that's going to come back to haunt him, isn't it?
It'll come back to haunt me, probably.
Good lap for Metallic as he's going to be on the outside of the front row. Jeff Supta clocking in at a 31.515 to capture the pole position here tonight. Brian Schilling, Grant Wesley, and Jeremy Jeffries going to be the top five, and a good showing there qualifying from a couple of our transferee drivers. Andre Mahjong 8th, Jim Gloud, our open winner there in 9th, so we'll keep an eye on those drivers in the early going of this race. But let's address the elephant in the room, because it was 2x in the All-Star Open. It is now 3x, and that doesn't just necessarily mean that the tires are going to wear down as a lot more, but it also means the fuel is going to be consumed a lot more. And with CTS physics, it is a much lower fuel load. What do we see out of these drivers in the early going for this one, knowing that there's going to probably be a couple of trips to pit road in their future?
I honestly think they're going to try to sort themselves out and probably just try to ride. We won't see them really make too many ridiculous, wild moves and aggressive moves until probably a few laps before pit stops where they want to get in specific track position. But, I mean, I get what you're saying about the fuel mileage stuff, but honestly, I'd be really more concerned about the access road coming in and access road leaving and getting my tires underneath that white line from the track into the apron, maybe on touching the grass or on the access road itself, because if we got 3x wear, it's going to be a lot more difficult.
And that's a great point, Jess, that you brought up. I mean, you know, a lot of guys, they'll practice pitting on the access roads, but they only run 2 or 3 laps and then go down and see what they can push. But when you pit, your tires are gone, so you won't be able to push nearly as hard with worn tires as you would if you're just practicing with a 2 or 3 lap run.
The white line down there at the entrance of turn 3 for the start of the access road. You can carry as much speed as you want around that access road in 3 and 4. The commitment line for the pit road speed doesn't start until you get over here towards the pit road entrance. If we do end up having a round of green flag pit stops or a few rounds of green flag pit stops, be interesting to see who is willing to push the issue a little bit more and who's going to take the conservative route. But here we go. It's all led up to this. 67 laps here tonight. The All-Star race is green. Double wide all the way back. We'll see how anxious these drivers are to try and get themselves single filed out. But another thing with CTS physics, whether it be a super speedway or a speedway, is you get yourself into a single file formation. If everybody runs the same line, you've got the inevitable checkup and potential chain bumping that could take place here.
Yeah, but the chain bumping, I mean, that's what I believe it was you or Tim that mentioned it earlier in the Open as well. It was like that checkup. People got different braking points, different let-off points, and that could definitely screw someone's chances up completely, especially if they lose a draft, which Tim said you've got to have the draft period at this track, especially when you come into pit and leave.
Yeah, you absolutely have to. You can pit by yourself, but you lose so much time on the track. You know, a lap in the draft versus a lap by yourself. So, you know, you want to be within, even if you could pit by yourself, which I do sometimes, you know, you want to be within 1 or 2 laps of everyone pitting.
That move into turn 3, IndyCar-esque by Josh Metallic. Almost kind of a slide job on Supta. Supta crosses him back over. But it's looking like that outside line right up against the wall is getting the better momentum down the back straightaway. Saw Brian Schilling lose a couple of spots the lap prior on that inside line, and Supta almost lost the lead to Metallic going into turn 3. So I don't know if it's just that the draft's a little bit tighter there up against the wall. They're lined up a little bit better, or if there is that run off of turn 2, giving that little bit of extra oomph down the backstretch.
You know, I do want to mention that how many times have we seen in the past at races for intermediate speedways, like whether it's bare bones or Aero 88 set, that we've seen Supta and Jeremy go up to the high side and try to find something that's not even there, and then all of a sudden they can find something randomly out of nowhere. I mean, they're really decent at what they're doing. It looks like they've kind of migrated up to that now. They see what's going on, they notice it, so they've already adapted to that. They already know that that's going to happen.
Wesley in the 5th spot there, hounding Brian Schilling. Brian, Jim Glaude, those are a couple of drivers that in the early going, they've seemed pretty committed to that white line on the inside.
I noticed that we overlooked a specific driver who has been mentioned quite a bit over in the intermediate speedway series as well that we've covered, Seth. We can't discount the 62 machine of Ron Luzier either, because we've seen what he can do as well. So that's another underdog that we haven't even talked about.
And inside the top 5 for a good portion of the season finale for the Aero 88 series last Wednesday night. Driver that number 62, and look at us stacked up double wide up here at the front of the field. So, Tim, does this go back to what we were talking about in the All-Star Open with the CTS physics, the ability to be able to get that suck up, be able to get that run? You've got to take that momentum somewhere. You just, it's against the driver's nature to just kind of ride in line when you've got that big of a toe.
Well, on a track like this, if you don't take it somewhere, you're liable to get run over. I mean, they're close enough to each other. You don't want to check up entering a corner, you're liable to get turned into the wall. So I think these guys are actually pushing harder than I think they really want to at this point. But it's putting on for some damn good racing.
Really good. Top, Josh Metallic bottom. Looks like the advantage a little bit to that one car, but both lanes seem to be able to work right now. It's like that inside line gets the better momentum into the corner, and then that outside line picks up the throttle from the center off. Now, we didn't get a chance to be able to see exactly what the fuel window was on 2X for the All-Star Open. What's the ballpark range are we thinking here for these drivers on 3X?
We're probably about 20 laps. What you think?
Yeah, I would say it's probably that 20 to 24 lap range.
What was it? More like a 35-ish to probably 40 lap, depending on if you can stretch it.
Yeah, I think in the first race he could have ran all the way till 5 to go. In this race, I think it's going to be more around that about a third.
Yes, you touched on Dave Melson, the consistency we were seeing out of him near the close of the season, and there he is, high, wide, and handsome, battling for 4th place with Brian Schilling up inside of the top 5. Good run there for that Fanta Chevrolet, and I also noticed another driver. How about that 111 Coca-Cola Chevrolet of Ron Hagelin? He crossed the line last time by in 9th, battling hard with our All-Star Open winner, Jim Glaude.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing that I've noticed is that at the front where Jeremy's running with Supta and who is it, Josh, right there, it seems like they like that high side next to the wall when they come off, but they want that middle line so bad. And then you got these drivers back here, such as Dave Robbins, Doug Cady, Terry Bombard, JT Mayhew. They're just searching for anything and anything they can grab that makes their car handle at all any way they want to, conservatively or however they want to feel on their car. But it just seems like that first top 4 stuff, it looks like they want that middle line. That's what I'm noticing.
We just saw Brian Schilling have quite a moment there. I noticed he was running the low side for the beginning of this run. I think he's at that crossover point where the tires are starting to give up a bit. He may have to just kind of ride in line for a while. I noticed the Ford and 72 were both running that low line. I think now they're kind of paying the price.
Alex starting to lose some ground as well there on that inside line. He was battling with Jeremy Jeffries for the lead. He's now drifted back to 4th and under fire from Andre Mahjong in the 27. Just brought up the question, Tim, about that outside line going up there, being able to cool down the tires. Is that something the 4-car can do right now, or with all the traffic around him, is that not a viable option?
No, you can still do it. You just have to be easy on the wheel, and you're not cutting the car so hard in the corner when you're on that high side. You're putting less wheel into it. The less wheel equates to cooler tires.
Something I'd want to know is, I mean, I know it's stretching the issue and being very hypothetical right now, okay? And I understand that, so don't jinx me here, Seth. But if we get to pit stops, I know we talk about getting on the access road to begin with, to stay on the access road, right? But when they let off of the throttle or even touch that brake, how bad is that car wanting to snap, Tim?
Well, this is a really difficult access road, super narrow, and it's so inviting to have you just drive it down in there with full speed and then, try to get her load up. I know I personally have tried to push it on this access road and slid right back up into the track. I'd be surprised if we don't see someone do that. It's so easy to do, and it just catches you off guard, and by the time you realize you're in trouble, it's too late.
We've seen in Speedway races here as well, drivers utilizing the art of the hot pit. We talk about that all the time in the Tally Challenge. It's one of the tracks where hot pitting is a viable option.
I'd be afraid to try that at this point, especially with 3X at the same time with this access road, hitting the brake at the last second coming on.
Well, not the access road, but like coming to the commitment line off a turn.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I would be concerned. I would highly be concerned because of the transition. I would not want to even try that.
Well, to be fair, you
almost
can
3
gain a ton of time on these access roads if you're willing to push it to the limit. You're going to see, if we do get green flag pit stops and they go off clean, you're going to see a separation quite large, because guys like Jeremy and Josh and Grant, they're all good at pushing that envelope, where some of the guys are probably more cautious, and you can lose so much time just because of the length of the access roads.
We talked about the criteria of how Jeremy Jeffries and Grant Wesley, the 2 former All-Star race winners, were locked into tonight's field. Let's give a shout out to some of the other drivers that were able to get in not only through victories, but also winning some championships in the respective series in the last 2 seasons. Unfortunately, we don't have Sean Prime in the field tonight, but he was the back-to-back champion, the Bare Bones Series. You've got Brian Schilling. He was the season 56 Aero 88 champion. Dave Melson was the season 58 Pinty's champion. Mitch Bombard not in the field tonight, but he would have qualified in. He was the 2022 Cup Series Chase champion. Andre Charest also not in the field tonight, but he was the Challenger champion for season 57s in Bare Bones. Glenn Harris, his Krispy Kreme Chevrolet, is in the field tonight. He was the Challenger champion for Bare Bones in season 56. I do not believe we have Bob Dixon in the field here tonight, but he was the Challenger champion for season 56 and 57 for the Aero 88 series. And then Doug Cady, he was the Challenger champion for both Aero 88 and Bare Bones.
Well, here we go, pit stop, Seth.
In season 58, and he's in the field tonight. As here we go, the race leader and second place diving onto pit road, and let's watch them all the way around this narrow access road onto pit lane.
Tim, I have to ask at this point, if this was you, would you pit first, or would you rather pit later or with a pack at this point?
Well, I think the first group I would have liked to stretch it out to about lap 22 or 23 if possible, just because of the 67 lap race. I would have certainly wanted to be able to make it on one more stop, but they felt that a clean pit road is a lot easier sometimes, so that probably factored into it.
About 100 miles per hour, it looked like most of those drivers around that access road through 3 and 4.
And it seems like Terry Bombard, Ron Luzier, Frank Rivard, Grant Wesley, those are the only drivers that stayed out a little bit extra here, Seth.
Everybody, for the most part, in those first 2 groups, they did a good job single filing out. Frank Rivard almost looked like he wanted to take it double wide with Grant Wesley around that access road. Now the question is, we're seeing a lot of these drivers, they're doing that hot pitting there. Looks like those front brakes taking pretty good, the back end pretty steady. We'll see if the speeding police are going to nab anybody here, because I think the last thing you want to do, if this thing is looking to trend green, you don't want to put yourself behind the 8 ball and have to serve a pass-through.
No, definitely not. That'll take you out of the race quicker than anything.
Jeremy Jeffries got out of pit road a lot quicker than Jeff Supta. There's about 7-8 car length separation between those two, but we're going to see the field get somewhat spread out here, I think. How prevalent is the draft going to be in getting everybody bunched back up? Because we've seen in terms of super speedway racing, usually it comes down to the numbers and organization as to whether a group is going to reel in another group.
Rodney Solon is back in, Seth.
Oh, that's a shame.
So how is that going to play out as far as maybe a group trying to reel in another group here at Homestead? Is it going to be easier? Is it going to be harder?
It's certainly harder than a super speedway just because you get the drafting effect, but you don't have the bumping and the possibility of making up time. But definitely, if you're a second group trying to chase down that first group, you want to stay nose to tail and keep the tightest draft that you can.
I don't know if there's anything in it, but I was observing before Jeremy Jeffries and Jeff Supta dove onto pit road, lap times had fallen off anywhere from 0.3 to half a second. So you got to wonder if that extra out lap on fresh tires might have helped Jeremy Jeffries and Jeff Supta gain the advantage they have a long ways back there. Last time by, it showed about 2 seconds from Supta back to third place, Josh Metallic. Now there is a group with him, Frank Rivard, Dave Melson, Ron Hagelin. Only time will tell if this group of 4, now make it 5 with Grant Wesley, if they're going to be able to reel in the top 2.
Yeah, I would try to figure that out if that was going to be in effect or not, because right now you got Supta and Jeffries. They're running single file, just minor P's and Q's in single file line set. They're drafting with each other. They're not really challenging each other or any other issues around them at this point. So I don't know if this 2-car tandem is going to be able to pull away like we've seen in the past, or if like a bigger pack is going to be able to run them down, because Josh Metallic seems like he's slowly starting to check out from the fourth place machine.
It cut down the advantage that last time by about 1/10.5. Did Josh Metallic and company up here to first and second. Looks like another driver got hit by the speeding police there in that round of green flag pit stops. The 338 of JT Mayhew, who won the season finale for the Aero 88 series last Wednesday night. So tough break there for him and Rodney Sullins. I believe it's 2 lucky dogs here for the All-Star race as well. If a caution came out, they'd be the only 2 drivers 1 lap down right now and should be the 2 free pass machines if we were to get a yellow. But as of right now, with how spread out things are, the likelihood of the caution's a lot slimmer than when we took the green with everybody all nose to tail.
Well, right now, these guys need to be a little bit more aware of their situation. I mean, they've got two rabbits out there they're trying to chase down. And, they're still doing a lot of side-by-side racing. They really need to work together to try to catch the 2 leaders, and then they can race it up. But I'd be frustrated if I was in that line of cars and I've got guys pulling out when we're trying to catch the leaders. But the one thing that I'd be concerned about with the leaders is they pitted on lap 20 coming to 21. I just wonder if they can stretch it far enough to make it on one more stop.
And in the case of Jeremy Jeffries, he's led 21, now 22 of the 28 completed laps. In CTS physics, much like in a super speedway, if you're that lead car, you're using up a lot more fuel. So I would have to think that even if Jeremy could save a lap or 2 here between now and the next round of pit stops, he still would be somewhere about 2 or 3 laps short of making it to the finish.
That reminds me of something, Tim. They came in a little early, right? Jeremy and Jeff. And then you saw Grant come in really late. Now, do you think that Jeff and Jeremy were really pushing it enough to where they didn't like their tires, they didn't like how everything was handled, they came in quickly, or do you think that was because of a clean pit road, or do you think that Grant stayed out to see how long he could stay out? Do you think that's going to have any effect on how Jeremy and Jeff think about this next set, where they want to stay out longer, or what do you think? Playing little monkey see, monkey do.
In my opinion, I think Jeremy and Jeff right now are just kind of cruising. They mission accomplished. They got a lead. They don't have to race hard at this point. They can just cruise. It'll be interesting to see when they pit again as to, they're going to have to probably make it to lap 42, 43 probably. I would say they have a shot.
Jim just barely got into the 10 machine of Terry Bombard. I don't know if that's going to hurt him.
And around he goes. No caution. The 10 has hit the inside wall. Going to come back up the racetrack. Saw the light still green on the back straightaway.
Sorry to cut you off, Tim. I apologize.
No problem.
Tough break there for Terry Bombard, who transferred in that All-Star Open. No caution to save him. We stay green.
But with the fact that now Jeff and Jeremy have seen that Grant went 2 extra laps, do you think that they're willing to roll the dice, you think, at any point? Or do you think that they're just going to stay committed to what they're doing to actually be able to get back out in front of Grant and everyone else during pit stops? I mean, if it were you, would the undercut be the way you want to go here?
It really depends on fuel. You know, if I think I can make it on one more stop from this point, and I'm the 1 in the 11, I'm going to pit as soon as possible to get, you know, to the end. Like I said, I'm not 100% sure on how many laps they can get on a tank, but that would be a concern for me.
What do you think, Zach?
Honestly, at this point, I think that Jeffries and Supta, going back to the point that Tim made about surprised that they came in as early as they did, I think they've kind of painted themselves into a corner. I think that they don't necessarily have an option to change things up. They have to run it as far as they possibly can, I think, on this stint, and just hope that they're going to be able to save enough to make it to the end. I honestly think that the ball right now is in the court of Grant Wesley, just based on the fact that he and a couple of the others, Frank Rivard there as well in the 35, were some of the last ones onto pit road. So their fuel numbers on this second upcoming round of pit stops, if we do them under green, are going to look a lot better than these guys up here at the front. Jury's kind of out there on Josh Metallic and company. Honestly, I think Metallic might have been on the edge, but the fact that he pulled away from fourth and he's been trying to close up the gap almost by himself on the top 2, I think he's using up just as much fuel, if not more, than the race leader. So I think he now, based on his current situation, he might have fallen into the same category as the 1 in the 11, where even coming to pit road at the last possible moment here, he might still be short of making it the rest of the way on fuel.
He's starting to get a sniff of the draft on the 11. The thing is, he's driven the tires off that thing, so the handling, I'm sure, is pretty miserable right now, but he keeps pushing. You know, now that he's got a sniff of the draft off of the 11, he should be able to get right up to him. Like I said, I'm really curious to see when the 1 and the 11 have to pit. You know, maybe they will have enough. It really depends on what the max laps are per tank.
They came in at the completion of 21. If that's the furthest they can go, they're going to be on pit road in the next 5 laps. And I'm wondering about that 39. Did he just turn the aggression level up to 11 to reel in the top 2? Or are Frank Rivard and company behind? Are they saving a little bit here? And that's why the 39 was able to gap them.
Or did the 1 and the 11 just kind of chill a little bit?
Back up, yeah.
I mean, I was going to ask Tim something here. We talked about the tire wear and the tire heat and whatnot at this point in time. If you started and ran this whole pretty much race, this whole little run, descent, whatever you want to call it, in a conservative mode, okay, compared to someone being aggressive, how much time do you think you would lose compared to the leaders at the end of the stint?
Well,
based on that tire wear going out.
You can be conservative and still maintain your speed. You know, it really just depends on how much input and wheel. I see the 1 and the 11 and the 39. Now that surprises me, but they're all 3 pitting right now. That's going to put them considerably short of making it to the end.
Is about 2 laps sooner than they were even projected to make this second pit stop. Andre Marchand coming in here as well, really hot at number 27 Dodge. Dave Robbins, Glenn Harris, they're coming in this lap as well. That turns the race lead over to Frank Rivard. Just an update, it looks like we have lost our open winner. Jim Gloud brought his car to pit road a couple of laps ago and made the left-hand turn to the garage area, so not going to be able to complete the sweep here in the All-Star weekend.
Did you see how close Supta started trying to move?
Rivard! And Ronald Lucet on pit road, so there'd be no caution. Doug Cady had to do some defensive driving there to split both of them.
But Seth, out of curiosity, when you were mentioning that Okay, I just almost lost my train of thought. Let me get it back.
Well, I think the drivers are truly in position now. The 88, the 4, and the 338. Oh, I think the 338's a lap behind those guys, but the 88 and the 4 are definitely in position. They're coming to completion of lap 43 to 44. I would think that they'd be able to make it.
Shilling's in. Grant's
I think
staying
Grant's
out.
staying out for one
Yes,
more.
he did. Another lap. Grant Wesley right now, he's been the one driver for the most part that has stretched it the furthest he can go. Schilling locking up those rear tires. Got it woed down, didn't loop it around, but might cost him a little bit of time there once everything cycles back around. Should see Wesley in this lap, I would assume. Well, nope, I assume. Oh, well. He's deking
Coming
me out.
right in front of JT Mayhew.
Grant's obviously the driver that wants to see that green flag stay out the entirety of this race, because coming to pit road here, completion of 44. Oh, JT almost got the edge of the pit wall. But Grant came in pit road, what was it, around lap 24's completion, 23's completion? Oh, it's right on the mark. Might still be a little short for the 88. Only time will tell.
Yeah, but he's in a position now where he can save fuel. You don't need to run up at the lead or even in that lead pack. I mean, you just need to maintain a decent speed, and it gives him options, and that's so important. I always try to factor that in whenever I'm racing, but he's definitely in the catbird seat right now.
Well, we brought up the question, who was going to be the over-aggressor on that access road. I think the 27 of Andre Mahjong might be up on the top of that list, because he caught up to the top 3. He's right there with him. We saw him really hot entering pit road. He closed up the gap on the top 3 there on the access road. He's up here in the top 5 now. Great pit stop for the 27.
And thank you for readjusting what I was going to say originally before right when the pit stops were starting. So I was going to mention how Supka and Jeffries came in really close, and how Metallic tried to speed up just a little bit, and everyone behind him was trying just to get that little bit more coming into pit road on that 1 cent. I'm thinking that they're hoping and praying for a caution at this point in time to save him, and caution right now is the last thing Grant Wesley wants to see, definitely.
Barry Bombard in the 10 is currently a lap down now, so that would knock JT Mayhew out of a free pass position. Wow, that 88 loose in the middle. We saw Schilling loose in the middle earlier on.
Actually, I do want to point out, I was riding with Schilling behind that, and back in 3 and 4, he clutched. So, I mean, he's not doing it right now in 1 and 2, but there was a point where he did do it back in 3 and 4. So I don't know if that's his game plan at the moment. Right there, going into 3, he clutched for a second.
That's smart. I tell you, of all the drivers I've raced with over the years, he is by far one of the best at saving fuel. Himself and Chuck McClure is another outstanding fuel saver. But you got to start early if you're going to save that. I assume he's going to have to save about a lap.
And then you get these guys up here, Supka and Jeffries. They cannot really afford to clutch at this point, because if they start clutching, that pack behind them will start reeling them in, and then at that point, they might need to save a little bit more, and they won't have that little bit to actually save. So, they like you guys said earlier, they kind of put themselves in a little bit of a tight niche right now.
Remember, I mentioned that the Barebones series with this mod, this specific track, was on the schedule, and Brian Schilling, he finished 3rd place from the 29th position. So it is not outside the realm of possibility that even though he's currently running in 7th, that we might not be saying his name in victory lane by the end of the night. But now basically we're kind of looking from 5th place on back, because I think it's safe to assume that our entire top 4, Jeffrey, Supta, Metallic, and Mahjong, who all came to pit road the same lap last time, there's no way any of those 4 can be able to make it the rest of the way. So are we looking all the way back there to Brian Schilling, or could maybe Melson Hagelin be a couple of drivers also in the conversation that could make it the rest of the way?
Well,
I
with the
don't
ra-
think so. I think it's down to the Ford and the 88. The Ford's going to have to save some, and the 88, even the 88's back there clutching, so we're not even aware if he can make it or not. You know, I think the leaders, or their game is they're going to have to come down and just get a splash, or they're going to have to, you know, maybe 2 tires. But yeah, if this thing goes green, I don't see any way that they're going to be able to pull this off.
Now, I've only ever clutched with a race that was 2x. How much more difficult is it to clutch in a race that's got 3x wear? I mean, do you
yeah.
even see any difference in saving anything?
It takes a lot longer to even see a fraction of a difference. And I'm sure Tim could vouch for that one, because I mean, through an times 2 stuff, it takes about, if you have like 20 laps to go, you start clutching right away, you'll start seeing your results probably around the 10 lap to go mark. So it takes so long on a plate track. I mean, this is a speedway, don't get me wrong, I get that, but on a plate track, I mean, 2 different things, but I mean, it takes so much longer for that to even become a factor, so you've got to run so many laps just to even get a little bit back. I mean, Tim, do you agree with that, or do you see it differently?
Yeah. Actually, it's a little bit easier on a speedway. Even with the 3 times, you can maintain your speed with the clutch in the corners. You know, you're a little harder on the tires doing that, but you can certainly keep a decent pace even with the clutch in through the corners. But you don't have that option on a super speedway. So I think the 4, he's dropped back considerably now behind the 88. I think he knows that's going to be his competition. But I think that yeah, he'll be able to save quite a bit.
We got 55 laps down, so we're reeling into that 10 lap to go mark roughly at this point, and I've been playing around going through the field, pretty much trying my best to stay on the first top 3 here. I'm noticing they're taking a little bit different lines, entry and exit of the corners a little bit. Josh keeps getting a little bit of a run here, and he's right up there, and then he just loses a little bit, gains it a little bit back. Soup just kind of aiming a little bit higher, then exiting a little bit lower, if you notice that as well. But through the wholeness of this whole run, I'm not hearing any of the top 3 clutching or even letting off. I mean, they're going at the same speed each time at 163, 162 in the corners. I mean, that tire wear is starting to come into effect, but they're not in conserve mode, I don't believe, right now. Ron Hagelin is on pit road. Frank Rivard currently on the access road. A couple of people I'm going through has been clutching a little bit, but that top 3 group, they have not.
Hagelin pit from the 6th position to come down pit road for potentially the final pit stop, kind of throwing down the gauntlet. Frank Rivard was running, I believe, in 8th. So do you like this strategy, Tim? You're at the back. Might as well try and make something happen.
If they're going to pit this soon, they plan on taking tires. Tires will make up that time. At least that's the theory behind it. You get those tires, and you can run harder, faster.
Dave Robbins is warping a little bit back here. Sorry, making Glenn Harris move up.
You know, I think everybody's kind of made their bed. You know, as far as the 111, 39, 27. They're going to have to duck on and probably take a splash. It'll be interesting to see if they take tires or not. But, you know, as far as Brian, I know Brian and Grant are both clutching. It's going to be interesting to see what they can come up with. If there's a caution, they'll be fine.
Ron Lucet on pit road in the 62 from the 8th position.
Jeremy's coming in.
Like Supta might be coming in as well. Less than 10 to go. Jeffries has led 46 laps so far here tonight. 5 laps led by Grant Wesley, 3 by Supta, 2 by Dave Melson, then 1 apiece by Frank Rivard and Josh Metallic. It's been the Jeremy Jeffries show at the front of the field pretty much all night long, but that might end up being to his detriment if it comes down to fuel.
And I do notice there's been a couple of points where Grant has been clutching in the entry and a little bit of the exit and whatnot from time to time, depending on who he's around. He has nicked that outside wall a little bit. I don't think it's enough to slow him down, but I mean, he has nicked it a couple of times. So I'm expecting to see probably some other drivers kind of start nicking it. Well, Andre Majan really trying to figure out which way to come out on
He's
pit
been
road.
very aggressive on pit road tonight. My gosh.
One in the 11 went with 2 tires.
Oh boy.
39.
Well, here comes Grant.
Do.
Grant's coming around off of the turn 2. Supka and Jeffries are right there.
So here's the thing. In the case of Grant and Brian, we're seeing Brian really clutching, like really has backed his pace down. If the 88 and the 4 can make it, the question is, what's their pace going to be like? And with the 2-tire strategy by Supta and Jeffries, would they have enough time, enough speed to be able to reel in the 88 and the 4 in case they start sputtering and can't make it around to the checkered flag in the closing stages?
Well, I'd love to say absolutely, but in reality, there's no chance.
It's
They're
Grant
almost a lap down. The 4 and the 88 would have to cut it to half speed for them to even have a chance. Keep in mind that the 88 was able to run one more lap than the 4. That means he was saving in the second run, so he was preemptively thinking this is the play. So I think that Grant's totaling the catbird seat right now, and as long as he can make it on fuel, I think he's good to go.
Well, Supta's coming around to unlap himself as well. Uh-oh, Rodney Stolen's coming in now. I'm not sure if this was a normal pit stop or if he's coming back in.
This is scheduled for the 38.
Okay.
He was a lap down, got that speeding penalty. He was, I think, trying to hope that maybe a caution would save him. He was on the tail end of the lead lap at the time, but now he's going to lose that lap back.
Yeah, but most of the time when you're a lap down or you're at the very end of the tail end, you just wait as long as you can and hope something happens, right?
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I'm a little disappointed for Rodney. He, in my opinion, is probably by far the most improved driver. He came in as green as your front yard, and in the short amount of time that he's gotten so good at this, it's nothing short of amazing, in my opinion.
But right now, if you're Brian Schilling, I mean, just how distracting is it that you have to not only manage the gap between yourself and the 88, but also keep an eye on your fuel number, because the 4's got to go on the attack at some point here, but he's got to make sure he's got the fuel to do it. The 88, he's just got to basically play defense here. All he has to worry about is fuel.
Question, what in the world happened to Metallic? He's ahead of Jeremy and Jeff. Like, what happened with that? Did he just pass?
Maybe on the 39?
Could have.
I'm sorry to cut off your question with Tim, Seth. I was really curious how Metallic got around Jeffries and Supta.
He's currently in third, about half a second ahead of Jeremy Jeffries. That could be a 3-way battle, maybe 4-way battle with Andre Mahjong for the third spot. But here we go. White flag is in the air. The 88 continuing to clutch right down on the shortest way around the racetrack, right down that white line. Can Grant Wesley make it another mile and a half? Brian Schilling has really fallen off, over a second back to the 4.
Yeah, Grant's clutching on the straightaways and in the corners now. I mean, he's barely running, so he's gaining speed now. He's hoping he can cross the line, probably not even under power.
Through 3 and 4,
Schilling's
throws the
way
clutch
low
in a
here.
little bit more, and now powers down to get that momentum off of turn 4. Came down to fuel strategy, clean and green all night long, and Grant Wesley is the All-Star Race winner here in Season 58 of the Speedway style All-Star Race. Second All-Star Race victory in the last 3 seasons.
Okay, so let's make this agreement here. It seems like every time it comes down to fuel mileage, it's Grant. So now from on, if we ever make picks, we should be able to be allowed to adjust it if we get green flag racing. What you think?
Well, just like the drivers, we weren't prepared for what kind of a race it was going to be.
Well, none of our drivers wrecked, so that's
true.
a plus, right?
Well, I am going to hop out, and I do want to say congratulations to Grant Wesley, Brian Schilling, Jeremy Jeffries, Josh Metallica. It was a hard battling for them, and I mean, I know they didn't get the win, but they did a really good job. It was a really interesting show, and there was only one caution. It was early on, I believe, but I'm not even sure if there was a caution
No,
at
no
all.
cautions in the All-Star race. We had an
But
incident, but no
this
cautions.
was great. This was really, really fun to call with you, Seth and Tim. And I'm going to hop out. I've got things I unfortunately have to do before I have to go to bed. So I will see you Thursday. And Tim, I will allow you to take my spot with the interview. So enjoy that and have fun, guys.
Great. Thanks, Jess. Have a good night.
Grant Wesley had enough fuel to be able to do a mini burnout there. He picks up the victory. Schilling in second, Jeffries in third, Metallic and Mahjong going to be the top five. Good run there for Andre Mahjong. Transferred his way in. The final transferee, actually, into the All-Star race via the Open and gets the top five run. Zupta was the last driver to finish on the lead lap. And Doug Cady, I don't think we mentioned him a whole lot here tonight. He was second when that green flag pit stop cycle was going on. He ended up coming to pit road with about, I think it was 7 laps to go, and gets a 7th place finish because of it. Dave Melson, Ron Hagelin, Ronald Lucet there inside of the top 10. Everybody finished the race under power with the exception of Jim Glaude, but who saw this coming? Because I certainly didn't. Green flag the entirety of the race coming down to fuel. Imagine if this had been 2X, we probably wouldn't have been crunching the numbers nearly as much as we were with the 3X.
No, I mean, these guys, the fact they went caution free did not surprise me. These guys are the best of the best. You know, they do this week in and week out. So the fact that it went caution free didn't surprise me. You know, it's kind of intriguing to see these guys, how they think ahead and save that fuel. But down deep, I really wanted to see a caution. I'd rather see him banging doors. So, but congrats to Grant. Congrats to Grant. He did a wonderful job tonight, and Brian, Jeremy, they all did great.
We head into our FRM post-race wind down. Let's get some thoughts from the drivers that finished on the podium here this evening. Let's kick things off with the driver who led a race-high 46 laps here this evening, but came up just a few laps on fuel short. Jeremy Jeffries, Tim, and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
I have you guys.
Oh, man, I mean, we were just talking about it. Didn't know what kind of a race to prepare for here tonight, but we go green the entirety of the 67-lap event. It dominated this race up at the front. Unfortunately, though, being at the front means that you use up a lot of fuel. So was there any point in time where you might have been able to extend those 2 first stints to be able to make it that final third stint the rest of the way without having to come to pit road?
No, I don't think so. I think I made my bed that first run when I ran pretty much wide open at the front. And from then on, when I realized what was going on with the strategy calls, it was too late.
Well, you got to be disappointed because you were definitely one of the fastest cars out there. But at what point, I guess, did you realize that you were maybe on the wrong strategy?
When Grant went like 3 or 4 laps past me on that first run.
Now, one thing we were talking about was this pit road, having to take that access road. A lot of drivers would utilize that as an opportunity, maybe to gain track position, but then you got to get that thing woed down when you get to the pit lane line. Where were you on the side of aggressive and conservative with that very flat access road through 3 and 4?
I think I was trying to get in there pretty good. I had it figured out. I think maybe I might have slowed Jeff Souped up a little bit on one of the stops, but you know, it's there's a fine line there between going hard enough and going too hard, and I didn't want to cross that line.
Now, you didn't have to pass too many cars to be able to get up to the front, rolled off the grid from the 5th position, but in traffic, having to work the draft, different lines, how did the car feel on both the bottom and the top? Because we saw you try both lanes in the early going.
Oh, this track is amazing. You can run anywhere, especially when the tires are good, when they're new. About halfway through the run, it starts pushing a little on the bottom, but those probably first 10 laps were just fun. You could run anywhere, make passes anywhere, and it was just, like I said, it was a lot of fun.
A great performance. Oh, sorry, Tim.
No, I was just going to say, let's play devil's advocate. So, if the situation wasn't a gas fuel mileage race, who do you think would have been your biggest competition to get the win?
Oh, I definitely think it was Jeff Supta. I mean, we had pretty much the same strategy the whole race. We came out, I think that first stop, we had like over a 2-second lead on the rest of the field when we came out. We were just both nailing the stops. And then I think if everybody had to pit again and a couple cars didn't make it without that third stop, yeah, I would have been racing probably him for the win.
Gotcha.
Great run for you here tonight. A great performance out in front almost the entirety of this race. You came in the defending All-Star race winner, almost able to double down and win in back-to-back seasons. But congratulations on a great performance here tonight nonetheless, Jeremy. And we'll give you the opportunity here now for some thank you sponsors and shout-outs.
Oh, man. Thank you to RTG, Sean Prime, and Bones, David Kanan. Just allowing us to come out here and do this and have these all-star races and special events, and just the racing throughout the season, the competitors. It's amazing. Everybody that raced here, I just have so much respect for them. And we did an all-star race with no cautions. That's pretty awesome. And gosh, thanks to FRN. Thank you guys for coming out here and broadcasting once again. Always say it. Can't wait to watch you back. My XFM teammates, good job there, Grant, on the win. And friends, family, anybody out there watching in YouTube land, appreciate it. You all have a great night.
Awesome race indeed. That is Jeremy Jeffries, brings his number 1 Chevrolet Camaro home, P3 here tonight in the All-Star Race event. Congratulations on a great one, Jeremy, and best of luck in preparation for season 59.
Thank you.
And let's see if we can get the second place finisher here. Driver the number 4, Brian Schilling. Brian, Tim, and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
Yeah, what's going on?
Well, I was watching the relative there on those final couple of laps. You bring it home second, but that thing run out because it almost kind of looked like you went from 1 second back to 11 seconds back within that final mile and a half.
Yeah, I didn't have anything for Grant. He had another lap more than I did on fuel, so I ended up. I knew my threat for third place was way behind me. So at that point, it's like I'm just going to manage this to the finish. Get a second place finish at least out of it.
Okay, first of all, at the risk of totally screwing up your race, I picked you before this race started to be the winner. But I guess my question to you would be, when did you realize that the numbers were going to add up to making it on fuel? Did you notice at the beginning of the race or somewhere in that midway of that first run?
Actually, later than that. It was probably towards the end of the second run. I started looking at numbers, and I'm like, well, I get real close if I stretch it out as far as I could before the second pit stop, which I almost spun out going on a pit road, which didn't help my time. But yeah, it was that late. I kind of made the decision. I seen Grant stay out a lap later, and it's like, well, I'm at a disadvantage right there.
Yeah, I saw that when you had to duck in 1 lap before him. I know how good you are at saving fuel, so I knew if anybody could do it, you could. But the fact that you were at that 1 lap deficit to Grant, I knew that was going to be your undoing.
Yeah, for sure. Grant's always a good fuel mileage guy too.
Now, one thing that we saw in the early going, we saw the double wide Jeremy Jeffries, who we just talked to mention about just how multi-groove this particular track is, allowing for the double wide, 3-wide racing. There was a point in the early going, we saw you up around the 4th position. You had a moment out of turn 4 and dropped back to around 7th or 8th. It was kind of hard to pinpoint from a spectator point of view all of went on with that moment. Can you describe what it was that had you just a little bit out of shape and drop back a little bit at that point in time?
Well, I was running the bottom the entire first run. I wanted to try it out just to see, because a lot of guys gravitate towards the top. So it's like, I'm going to run where people aren't usually. The only problem was for how I was practicing, the car felt great wrapping the low line there, but I wasn't able to pull it from out from the wall down to the low side. So I basically had killed my tires by that point. So I had a moment off of the turn. It got real tight on me. I had to bail out of it, and that's why guys scattered around me to avoid me. So that's when I lost all the spots. I just kind of had to just put my head down and just survive the rest of that run.
You bring it home with a second place performance here tonight, up inside the top five pretty much the entirety of the evening. Congratulations on a job well done. We mentioned the fact that this particular car and this particular track, they were married up in the Bare Bones series earlier on this past season, and you had a podium finish there. So you were definitely one of the drivers to watch here tonight, and put on a heck of a show there in the closing stages of this race. So before we let you go, the floor is yours for thank you, sponsors, and shout outs.
Well, congratulations to Grant Wesley on the win. Just awesome job. Thank you for everybody here, admins, racers. Thank you especially Jeremy Jeffries for all the hard work getting this together tonight. None of this would happen without him and his work. Thank you guys for doing the broadcast, and thank you for the racers showing up every night. The support everybody gives here is amazing. And thank you everyone.
Brian Schilling, your second place finisher here tonight, crosses the start finish line on fumes to get the runner-up spot here in the Season 58 Speedway All-Star Race. Congratulations on a job well done, Brian, and best of luck in preparation for Season 59 series.
Thank you.
I'm pretty sure they probably had to push his car to victory lane. I don't think he had the fuel to get there. Let's see if we can talk with tonight's race winner, Grant Wesley. Hey, Grant, Tim, and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
Yeah, I got you.
Well, 2 seasons ago, you pick up an all-star race victory. Only had to wait 2 seasons to go back to victory lane, but you did it. Not necessarily in flashy form, outside the top 5 most of the evening. So does that beg the question of, did the fuel saving start as soon as the green flag dropped?
No, actually, so on that first run, I think I qualified 4th. And I was racing hard. I mean, I was saving the tire, for the first 5 or so laps. And I was racing there around Brian Schilling, and Brian was on the bottom. I was having a lot of fun. And then I decided to try the bottom, just like the 4 car was doing. And my car was handling great on the bottom. And I feel like I definitely could have got a top 5, racing it straight out with these guys tonight. The car felt great. However, I had the F2 up, and I switched to F3, and it was like 4 or 5 laps projected. I hadn't been watching it real close, and just knowing the number of laps in this race and what the projected number of laps we could run was, I knew it'd be tight, so I automatically knew I wanted to run it all the way out. And I ran it. I thought I was going to run out on that first run because it switched to 1 on me in the middle of 3 and 4 as I was staying out that extra lap. And I was like, shoot, I messed that up. I'm going to run out on the access road and lose half a lap to these guys. And I just never ran out. It sputtered. Light was on. It was almost 0 pounds as I came to my pit stall. And, I went that extra lap. And then I was I did a quick math in my head, and I was like, if I stretch this next one and then, I can clutch a little bit in the last run, if it goes green, I might be able to, steal one. And that's what I did.
So do you think that if it would have clicked down to 100 yards sooner, you would have dove on pit road?
Yeah, because like I said, it was in the middle of 3 and 4 where it clicked to 1 projected. If I would have seen that and felt like I could safely get to that access road, I definitely would have went for it. Like I said, I thought it was a mistake, and it turned out being a blessing.
Yeah, definitely the race winner. So do you feel like the 3 times tire wear versus the 2 times made a big difference in this race?
I think it definitely changed the projected number of laps for sure. As far as the tire wear, my tires were still green coming down for that first stop, so I didn't really notice a big difference in the tire wear.
Okay, well, congratulations. I kind of knew when you ran one more lap than Brian. I figured you were in pretty good shape. So, way to go and way to outthink them.
Well, I mean, I'm not going to take complete, I didn't outthink them. I got lucky a little bit, but hey, luck's, I'd rather be lucky than good any day.
Especially in field mileage races, sometimes you need to have that little bit of luck. Congratulations there, Grant. Obviously, we know that weren't able to get a super long burnout that we're used to seeing you do. Probably didn't have enough fuel to be able to do it, but we'll let you get back to celebrating. Before that, though, the floor is yours for victory lane. Thank you, sponsors, and shoutouts.
Yeah, I just want to, I guess, thank first and foremost Jeremy Jeffries. I know he put a lot of hard work into this All-Star event, doing the post and all the background work, and I think there were some others that helped out. But just thanks to him for that. He ran a really dominant race. I mean, my heart kind of goes out to him and Supta both. I hate to steal one like that, but I guess sorry, but not sorry. But yeah, I'd just like to thank the owners here, Sean Prime, David Cannon, um, and all the admins here at RTG. It's just such an awesome place to race. This is definitely a home for me. I'd like to thank UFRN, Seth, Jess, Tim. Pretty cool to see you in the booth. Would have loved to have you out there with us, but pretty cool that you were up here. I'd like to thank my teammates with XFM, my friends and family for watching, and my girlfriend, Brittany.
Grant Wesley finds the fuel to get across the line to pick up his second All-Star race in 3 seasons. Congratulations on a job well done, Grant. Go and enjoy this victory.
Thanks.
So Grant Wesley, the season 58 Speedway All-Star race winner. Of course, these drivers, they'll be getting themselves prepared for the upcoming 59th season, but still got one more All-Star race to cover here this week. Thursday night, Tim, we got that Super Speedway All-Star Series race, and I got a feeling that the 3 drivers we just talked to, Wesley, Schilling, Jeffries, they're going to be drivers that we'll have in the conversation for possibly finishing up in the podium positions for that one, too.
Well, not if I have anything to say about it. I plan on beating them all. But I just wanted to say thank you for letting me play in your playground here, and I appreciate you graciously letting me come in, and hopefully I didn't stomp on your toes too much.
Absolutely. Was glad to have you. Good to be able to have that driver insight whenever we're able to get it. Appreciate everybody that tuned in here tonight as well. Hope you guys enjoyed our coverage. Again, this Thursday night, it's the RTG Super Speedway All-Star Race. We'll also be covering the Open, the green flag for the Open at 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The All-Star Race immediately to follow, so be sure to join us for that one. Once again, thanks to Jessica Shelton for joining us here tonight. Tim, it was great to have you in the booth. And best of luck this Thursday night. Gonna be a lot of fun to see you try and get that 088 up to the front.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
We'll see you guys on Thursday night. Enjoy the rest of your Monday evening here. For Jessica Shelton, Tim Knopsker, I'm Seth Cole. You've been watching another broadcast courtesy of FRN, the Flatout Racing Network.
This broadcast is the copyrighted work of Flatout Racing Network and may not be rebroadcast, retranslated, or used in any form without the express written consent of Flatout Racing Network and iRacing.com Motorsports Simulations. Flatout Racing Network would like to thank you